In this video I'm going to go through the basics of drawing 2D shapes in Onshape. 2D shapes are going to be the basis of any 3D models that we create within the CAD software. Everything is going to start off as a 2D drawing and then we're going to do some modifications to that 2D drawing to create a 3D object. So the first thing we're going to need to do is select our sketch tool. So up in the top left hand corner here we have our sketch tool. This is what we select to start our 2D drawing. So I'm going to click on the sketch tool. Straight away I'll have this little pop up for our first sketch. Right, this will stay popped up until we are finished with this sketch, and when we're finished with the sketch we're going to come back and we're going to click on the tick to tell it that we are done completing this 2D sketch. Now when we're doing the sketch, the first thing that we need to do is select the plane that we want to draw on. So the easiest way to select this plane is to think about, when I'm looking at my 2D shape, what do I want it to end up looking like when it is 3D? So I've got to draw a particular view. So it might be the side-on view, that I see from this right-hand side. It might be the view that I see if I'm looking at it from the front, and I would select the front. It might be what I would see looking from the top, and I would select the top plane. So depending on which view is going to be the simplest view of the 3D shape, we're going to click on that particular view. So what I'm going to model to start with is just a very basic rectangular bit of timber, a bit of 140 wide by 19 mil thick, and let's make it 300 millimeters long. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a top view of that 140 by 19 piece sitting flat on a table. So if I was looking down at that sitting flat on the table, my dimensions would be 300 long by 140 wide. So I'm going to select my top for my plane. I'm then going to go up and see all of these tools appear along the top bar. Okay, a lot of them we're not going to need to use at this point. To start with, we're just going to select a rectangle. Now we've got three different options for our rectangles. We could draw a rectangle corner to corner, a rectangle from our center point, which is this point just here, or an aligned rectangle. I'm going to pick a center point rectangle. For those people who like to use keyboard shortcuts, you can just click R on your keyboard and it will automatically take you to the center point rectangle. Once I've selected that tool, I'm going to start at the center axis. I'm going to click once, and you can see as I drag out, I'm getting a rectangle. At this point in time, the numbers that are coming up with the rectangle, they don't matter. Okay, I'm just going to draw a rectangle by clicking again. After I've clicked, you can see one of the numbers for the rectangle has got a white background now, and it's written in black instead of blue. If I start typing numbers now, that number is going to change. So I can input a particular length that I want for that edge of the rectangle. So for me, I'm going to input that 300 millimeter length that I wanted my piece to be, and I press enter. Once I press enter, you can see that Onshape automatically makes that side of the rectangle the 300 millimeters that I wanted it to be. You can also see the next dimension just here. It gets that box and the white background and turns to black writing now. So now I can input the measurement that I want for that. So I want that measurement to be 140, and I can press enter. So I now have my 140 by 300 millimeter rectangle, my 2D shape that I was looking for. Now if I got this wrong, if I inputted any of the numbers incorrectly and they're not what I wanted, I can click the escape button on my keyboard, which will deselect whatever tool I had up here. So if I had the rectangle tool selected, you can see it's colored in. I'll move my mouse out of the way. When I click escape, it's no longer selected. That then allows me to hover my mouse over either of these measurements. If I double click them, it gives me the option to change them. So if I wanted that to be 400 instead, I could just type in 400 and press enter again, and it will change the size of that rectangle. This is really important and a really good feature, because if you make a mistake early on in a drawing in Onshape, you have the option to come back later and you can modify these measurements, and these modifications that you make to the measurements will then apply to the rest of your drawing. Right, so very important that even if you get them wrong, you need to be able to know that you can come back, you can modify the measurements at any time, and those modifications will carry through your entire Onshape document. So I'm going to change it back to 300, which is what I originally wanted. And I'm done with that rectangle. That's what I wanted, a 300 by 140mm rectangle. So I'm going to come up to the sketch here and I'm going to select the tick button, and you can see that rectangle has stayed there. So I've now drawn a 2D shape.